What's up YouTube, it's your old school expert here, and today I'm doing a deck profile of my GOAT deck from the 2004 format. If you don't know what GOAT decks are, go ahead and look it up, do some research because it's kind of a lot to explain. But for those of you who do know about GOAT decks, it's a great format, it's a lot of fun to play, and this is my max rarity. The reason I put that in quotes is because everybody's got a different definition of what max rarity is. So this is mine. It's all English, and it's they're all like near mint cards, and it's pretty much, you know, like the first editions of pretty much everything besides Hobby League is like the only thing I don't use because Hobby League cards are just really thick and they're too easy to stack, so I'm not a big fan of them. So here we go. So for monsters, of course, we got Sinister Serpent. That's pretty standard. My monsters aren't anything special. They're really standard. So 2 Magician of Faith. Really like this card, especially late in the game. You can get back all those great magic cards that you've used. 2 Magical Merchants. It's a level 1 light, so it's a great target for Metamorphosis, and then it also can get you a really nice, powerful magic or trap card when, especially when you have kind of used like a good amount of monsters or drawn a good amount of monsters, and you got like a clunky hand. This can really save you. It can really bail you out. Get like a Graceful Charity or something. So that's a really nice card. I love using it. And then the last flip effect is Morphing Jar, and this kind of a lot of people really like this card. I like it. You can really set up a good advantage with it, but at the same time, sometimes it's just, I don't know, I feel like it just doesn't work out all that well. But it is a really great card. I wouldn't take it out probably for anything else at the moment. So definitely run one of those. And then of course, to go with it, 2 Tsukiyomis. They're just, it's a great card, both to get your flip effects again, but it's a great offensive card because summoning it allows you, if you want to flip down one of your opponent's monsters in a face down defense position, which can be very powerful, but it's also great with Thousand Eyes Restrict and your flip effects. So great card there. And then we got, of course, 1 Sangan because he searches for pretty much everything that I've showed you so far. So Sangan, probably like my favorite card just because he's great when he's floating out there. Just a great asset to have on the field. And he has 1,000 attacks, so he can still attack, like he can get rid of scapegoats and stuff like that. So really useful card. Next we got Tribe Infecting Virus. So of course this is great with the Sinister Serpent, but it's also good to get your tribute monsters into the graveyard, so you can use Call the Haunted or Premature Burial. Or to get a Light or Dark into the graveyard to get BLS out. And then it's great to get rid of goats. It's just it's a super powerful card in this format. So we got one of those. Breaker, another pretty standard card. Really good effect to basically a built-in Mystical Space Typhoon, especially when Mystical Space Typhoon's at 1 in this format. So Breaker is pretty essential. It's also a dark monster, so definitely a useful card. And you can only run 1. And then here's the more controversial card, Exarion Universe. A lot of people don't like Exarion Universe in GOAT format because they say it's too powerful, and it kind of is powerful, but I think it keeps players honest, and it keeps you from just playing too defensively and running, you know, 3 scapegoats and 3 metamorphosis. So some formats don't allow Exarion, and that's fine. Like, I understand. It makes you kind of build your deck differently, maybe run like a Kaiku or something, but I like having Exarion because it keeps, like I said, it keeps people who just play a lot of scapegoats honest, and it keeps your opponent from just setting a bunch of defense. So 2 Exarions, and of course its defensive prowess is probably my favorite thing because it's got 1900 defense, so it stops Air Knight and anything below that, which is very, very good. Plus its effect to attack through with piercing damage is really great in this format with scapegoats. So next we got 2 Air Knights. I sometimes wish I ran a Jinzo, but I find myself wanting 2 Air Knights more because its effect is just so powerful, where resources are really scarce in this format. You want to draw as much as you can. So Air Knight's great because it's got the piercing ability, and then of course when your opponent's running scapegoat, this is just has no problem with that. So 2 Air Knights. It's also a light monster, so good BLS fodder if nothing else is available. And then the last beat stick is BLS. Pretty much no explaining there. It's just an incredible card, and almost every deck runs it. So one of those. And then moving on to the magic cards, we got 2 scapegoats. 3 I feel is kind of clunky, kind of like just too much. So I side deck 1 for when I'm playing against like more aggro decks or a deck where I feel like I could utilize scapegoat more. But in general, 2 is enough for me. So 2 of those guys. And then, of course, to go with it, 2 Metamorphosis, kind of the all-star of this format. I mean, it is called GOAT format for a reason, but this is the true all-star Metamorphosis. Brings out your Thousand-Eyes Strict, and it just gets you out of a lot of jams, and it doesn't... Its cost is just so minimal. It's just tributing a monster, but you get a monster, so it's a really nice card. And it doesn't need much more explanation than that. Very, very powerful card. Very versatile as well. Then what they call the Trinity is Delinquent Duo, Graceful Charity, and Pot of Greed. Honestly, my favorite out of these is Graceful Charity because it allows you to kind of get through your resources quicker. It doesn't plus at all, really, when you think about it. It kind of does if you consider Sinister Serpent, but other than that, it doesn't really plus, but it's just such a vital card. It lets you draw 3, discard 2, and sometimes discarding can be a good thing. And especially in this format, and of course, Pot of Greed. I mean, that's one of the most powerful cards ever printed. And then Delinquent Duo, I like it, but I honestly wish there was something better to substitute it with. I just don't really know what. I don't think it's as great as a lot of people say, especially when you use it and your opponent's got a Sinister Serpent. That's just really annoying. So that's the Trinity, as they say. 2 Book of Moon. I suppose you could run a 3rd. I think you can have 3 in this format. But I would keep it at 2 just because this card's good in situations, and it's got a lot of versatility to it. It can be offensive or defensive, and it works well with No Limit Cross Out. It works well with Thousand-Eyes Restrict, Snatch Steal. A lot of ways. If you're protecting against a Mirror Force that your opponent just activated, you save your monster with it. It's a very versatile card, but you don't want to get stuck with it because you don't necessarily plus off of it. It's not really a 1-for-1. It's kind of like a 0-for-1. So it's a really powerful card, though. It's a great asset to have. Next, we got 2 No Mana Crossouts. This, of course, is great against everything besides like aggro decks, like Beast Down, as they call it. So other than Beast Down, I really don't see why you wouldn't run this. I don't know. There might be maybe like a Chaos deck you wouldn't run it against. I don't know. I haven't played too many of those. So No Mana Crossout is such a great card. It sucks when you hit your opponent's Magician of Faith, then you have to take out your own Magician of Faith from your deck, but it's still worth it. So 2 of those guys. And then you got 1 Snatch Steal. That's pretty basic. Really powerful card in this format. A Premature Burial. Of course, that's standard. Almost every deck's going to run that. A Mystical Space Typhoon, which is restricted to 1 in this format. Really powerful card. Very useful. And then 1 Heavy Storm, of course. This is also restricted to 1. And Heavy Storm it's the reason people don't just set, 4 back row and end their turn. So definitely 1 Heavy Storm. And then finally, something that most people don't run, but I really like it, is Swords of Revealing Light. I mean, a lot of people will be like, oh, you're a trash player or whatever because you run swords. I think it's pretty useful. If my opponent destroys it, then fine, they used a resource to destroy a card that isn't all that great to begin with. But this card is great for stalling, and it's great if you're playing like a Beast Down game 1 and you haven't been able to side deck against it yet. This card can kind of save you because it just allows you to stall and kind of build up your resources and get better plays off of their aggressions. So I really like this card. It saves you many times. It has saved me. We got 2 Dust Tornadoes, and I think the dual terminal one is the more expensive one, but I really like the first ed PSV. It just looks really nice. So 2 of these guys, and this card's pretty legit. You could probably get away with just 1, but I hate back row, so I really enjoy having 2 of these. But it can be a dead draw sometimes when you're trying to top deck. It's just like you top deck this and you're like, why? So 2 of those. 1 Sakatsu Armor. I've thought about putting another one in, but so far I think 1 is good because you also have 1 Mirror Force. And then you also have 1 Torrential Tribute, so quite a bit of monster destruction. And then to go with that, you've got a Ring of Destruction, which is probably the best trap card in the game. It can be a game ender, especially like you pull out a BLS and you attack and then you Ring of Destruction on top of that. That's like 6,000 damage if it was a direct attack. And it can be even more if you're destroying other monsters, attacking twice, whatever. So this is a really good card, and definitely pretty much every deck is going to run that. So of course, Call the Haunted, pretty standard as well. You need it to bring out your boss monsters back from the graveyard, or pretty much anything. It's fun when your opponent uses MST and is face down and you activate it and bring out Sangan, and then Sangan goes to the graveyard and you get his effects, so that's nice. Really like this card. And then the final card that is just really fun to play, it's not that great, it's not the best card I could put in here by a long shot, but I really like this card. It is Magic Drain. It's really funny when you pull this out and you use it and your opponent's like, what does that do again? Because no one really ran this back then, and no one ever really ran this period in the competitive formats. Even since it came out back in 2002, it wasn't used all that much competitively. So I really like this card because late in the game, so early in the game it's not that great, because if you do activate it, like say they use Pot of Greed and you activate this, they might toss like a Nobleman of Cross out or something that they know they have another one of, at least one more, or Metamorphosis or something, or something, you know, that they just know they're going to get back with a Magician of Faith. But late in the game, this card can be really, really good, especially if you've got nice field presence, but you're afraid of your opponent top decking, you know, something good. This can, you know, like a Pot of Greed, and they got nothing else in their hand. This just is a really nice reassurance to have face down, knowing that your opponent can't Snatch Steal, can't use Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, whatever, to get those resources that they need to steal your monster or to pull out a BLS or something like that. So again, it's not the greatest card. Trap Dust Shoot's probably much, much better, but this card's a lot of fun, and because of that, I like to run it. So that's the main deck, and of course, we'll do the fusion deck real quick. We got the 4 Scapegoat tokens in here because they're pretty sweet. And then 3,000 Eyes Restrict. This is the only one that's like banged up, like really banged up. But these two, I think I pulled both of these. So we got a Flame Ghost. So these are level 1, obviously, and it's the best fusion, I think, in the game. Maybe there's one other fusion I'll get to in a minute that is sometimes better, but this card's amazing. We got Flame Ghost. It's a level 3. So if there's ever an opportunity, I don't know, not many come up where you need a level 3. It is a dark, so it gets a dark in a dark monster in the graveyard, which in this deck is harder than getting a light monster. Darkfire Dragon for level 4, again, just because it's dark. Dark Bolter the Terrible. This is the card I feel is maybe not better than Thousand Eyes Restrict, but almost as good. Because it's secondary effects. So its first effect that most people remember is that when it destroys an opponent's monster, that monster's effect is negated. So you attack, even if it's a face down monster, if you attack their Morphing Jar, Magician of Faith, whatever, they don't get the effect if Dark Bolter ends up destroying that monster. So that's super powerful. But if your opponent activates a normal magic card, you can pay 1,000 life points and negate it. And that's super powerful too. So what I really like to do is, when I have an Air Knight, wherever he is, he's somewhere in here. When I have an Air Knight on the field, I'll try to attack, you know, try to get that draw, because again, resources are critical. And then if I've got a Metamorphosis, I almost always go for it and Metamorphosis him for a Dark Bolter. Dark Bolter's got 100 more attacks, so that's nice. He can get over a different Air Knight. But because that leaves a monster on the field that can negate normal magic cards, which is huge in this format. Most of the most powerful magic cards are normal magic cards. So this card, I just absolutely love using it. So we got 2 of them, and he's dark, so that's good. Fiendskull Dragon, it's just in here. I don't see many opportunities where I would use this over Dark Bolter because it's the same level. Reaper on the Nightmare, same thing. It's just in here just because I really can't think of a reason why I would use this. We got Darkblade the Dragon Knight for level 6. Level 6 is kind of random. Jinzo's level 6, but I would say Jinzo's probably better than this, so unless you really need a Jinzo to go to the graveyard, don't see why you'd really want that. Ryu Senshi, again, level 6. He's not as good as Jinzo again, has a similar effect, negates traps. And then Ojama King is, I think, level 6 also, yeah. So that's kind of a good card because it eliminates your opponent's monster zones so they can't use Scapegoat. And then finally, Gatling Dragon. This is a really good, this is level 8, so you can actually bring him out with BLS. You can special summon BLS, use his ability to, or his effect to remove a monster from the field, and then so he's not allowed to attack, but if you use Metamorphosis, you can bring this out, and then when this is special summon, you can toss a coin 3 times and destroy a number of monsters on the field equal to the number of heads. This can only be used once per turn. So that's a really good effect, especially if your opponent's already got Scapegoat out there. It's a really good card. So sometimes I will utilize that if I've got a BLS that I'm not able to attack with, and I can definitely use his effect. So that is the fusion deck. And that's the deck. The side deck is just some random cards. It's nothing great. It's mostly against Chaos and aggro decks. So like just some Saw stuff and stuff like that. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about this super awesome magic drain that no one ever expects to do anything, and it actually comes in handy pretty often, honestly. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more awesome Yu-Gi-Oh videos.